Now let's talk a little bit about descendant selectors. So selectors allow us to be able to really just target a specific element, as I mentioned before. Descendant selectors allow us to be able to target an element not so much by the attribute that it contains, although that can be used, but by where it sits. So for example, if we wanted to style this heading 1, notice that it doesn't have any kind of an ID or a class on it, but if we wanted to style just this heading 1 and no other heading 1 that might happen to appear on the page, which I don't believe we have one, but we could always create one for kicks. Let's do it. H1 today's article. Okay, let's just go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead and now target this H1. So we're going to do a descendant selector, and to do that, we'll come into our CSS, and what we do, so you see we already have a style here that turns any H1 bold. Let's do one that just targets specifically that first heading 1. So we'll go header, because that's the, let me look at our index HTML. Header is the element that is the parent element for this one heading 1 that we want to target. Let's so we'll say header, then we'll just put a space, and then we'll say H1. So that's how you specify the relationship. So we're looking for the H1 element within the header. And all we'll do here is we'll just change the color. Color blue. I could have used a hex code there, but some colors they have their own keyword assigned to them here in the CSS. So we'll just go with that. So I will save. Come over here, refresh, and you see I just turned my heading 1 blue in the header. But I haven't turned the heading 1 in this that's down here. I haven't turned this one blue because I've just targeted using a descendant selector. Got it? Okay, so moving on, let's play around a little bit more with this. Let's say we want to target this, this span. So the span sits within this H1. Now we could target this span by going after its ID, or we could use a descendant selector. So let's go and try that. So we'll go header, H1, span. And that's a tagline, so let's just make it a little smaller. Font size 0.9 so that's one way we can specify font size. Let's do font style italic. Save. Over here, reload, and you see we've cut the size down a little bit and we've italicized the text just using a descendant selector. So this is all within a heading 1. These are both within the same heading 1 element, but there's a span that's within that heading 1 that we are just targeting using a descendant selector, and we're styling it differently than we would style the rest of the tag. So there's a lot of power in the ability to use descendant selectors, headings, and classes. Okay, let me pick something besides blue because it's a little hard to see. So let's do red. This is going to be ugly, but it'll demonstrate well. Okay, so let's talk about multiple selectors now. So here we go. Let's target, in this case, all heading 1s, heading 2s, heading 3s, heading 4s, heading 5s. So we can apply the same style of font weight bold to all headings in the document using multiple selectors. And all you do to do multiple selectors on a page is you just do commas. to separate them. So let's go to our HTML now, and let's add a heading 2 for the fun of it. Let me scroll down a bit, because it's always fun to add a heading 2. H2, more text. We'll save, come over here, refresh. Oh, there's our lovely red text. That's even harder to see, boy. But there's our heading 2, and it's bolded because it's sharing a CSS rule with all of the headings on the page. Let's just go back to black. Or, well, we'll do blue because it's different. Okay, let's play around a little bit more with multiple descendant selectors. So let's say we want to do, we have our header H1 span. Let's say we also want to get our H2 element as well, and we want to just target the H2 that is within the div with the class lead article. I keep going to the wrong place. Okay. Div dot for class lead article H2. So we're going to make this smaller and italic just like the heading 1. So save. Come to our page, refresh. And it's italicized. Now if I were to put a heading 2 elsewhere outside of that div, outside of the lead article div. Let's just try it. You see that it isn't being styled because we aren't using a descendant selector. So in this case, you see that it isn't being styled because it isn't targeted through the descendant selector. So let's go back and look at our CSS, and you'll see what's happening here. We have, in this case, we're using different types of selectors all in one. We have multiple selectors on the page separated by a comma, but we also have not only descendant selectors separated by spaces, but we have a class selector where we're selecting the div with the class of lead article. Then we have a space, and we're getting the descendant selector of heading 2. So you can combine these together to shorten up the amount of code that you have to really zero in on specific elements. And so the more you use CSS, the more comfortable hopefully you'll get with using some of these techniques to be able to be very targeted in what it is you're styling, and to be able to keep from having to retype the same styles multiple times. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, let me know. Thanks.